Today, we're going to talk about something you've probably felt, even if you didn't have a name for it. It's this mental fog that sets in after hours of scrolling. In fact, it's so common that it was named Oxford's Word of the Year for 2024. We're talking about brain rot. And the real question is, what's the actual psychological cost of a mind that's always distracted?
I mean, you've probably felt it, right? The internet just feels strange, kind of chaotic. To really understand why, I want to start with the story. Now, it's a fictional story, but it gets right to the heart of what's going on. So, picture this. It's September 10th, 2025. The conservative activist Charlie Kirk is speaking at a university rally, and then, out of nowhere, he just collapses. There was no gunshot sound, no warning, just confusion, and then panic.
When the FBI investigates, they find something that makes zero sense. The bullet that killed him is engraved with a message, but it's not a political slogan. It's a line from a really deep-cut, very weird internet meme.
So they catch the killer pretty quickly. He's a 22-year-old guy named Tyler. His friends have a nickname for him, Terminally Online. And when investigators dig into his motive, they don't find a political manifesto. They find a chaotic timeline of gaming references and internet inside jokes. His reasons aren't ideological, they're just memes. In this bizarre case, it really introduces our core topic today.
That story, as strange as it sounds, is a product of a culture that experts are now calling brain rot. So let's break down what that actually means.
So Oxford University, which again made this their word of the year, defines brain rot as the deterioration of one's mental state from the excessive consumption of trivial online content. It's that feeling, that mental sludge you feel after you've been scrolling mindlessly for hours.
So what does this kind of content actually look like? Well, it's usually overstimulating, right? It's designed to just grab your attention. It has almost no intellectual value, but it's incredibly addictive. And it usually comes in these really short, repetitive, and often just nonsensical loops.
A perfect example of this is something called sludge content. And I guarantee you've seen this. It's those videos where one half of the screen has maybe a podcast clip, and the other half has some distracting game, like Subway Surfers. Your brain gets completely hooked by the simple, stimulating game, which tricks you into watching content you'd probably just scroll past otherwise.
Okay, so this brings up a really important question. If this content is so low quality, why do we find it so compelling? Why can't we look away? Well, the answer really lies in the psychology of avoidance and escape.
Look, humans have always been drawn to absurd things, but there's a huge difference between then and now. Think about the period after World War I. Artistic movements like Dadaism used absurdity to make a point, to critique the absolute insanity of war and society. There was a message hidden in all that chaos. Today's brain rot, though, it uses absurdity just to keep you engaged, to give you a quick escape from your own anxieties. And the whole thing is just driven by algorithms.
And that need for escape, it doesn't come from nowhere. It's a direct response to a world that, for many people, feels completely overwhelming. A world filled with constant pressure, scary news, and a really uncertain future.
This is a huge piece of the puzzle. It tells a story about a generation that is under an incredible amount of psychological pressure.
According to recent studies, 42% of Gen Z have been diagnosed with a mental health condition. Now think about that. They are the most digitally connected generation in history, but they also feel more isolated and anxious than any generation before them. So in that context, brain rot starts to look like a form of self-medication, right? It's a way to just numb the thinking part of your brain and float for a while.
But here's the thing about that escape. It's not free. It comes at a cost. And that cost is a tangible physical effect on our brains. Neuroscientists like Dr. Gary Small are warning that this kind of passive, low-effort consumption can actually contribute to the shrinking of the cerebral cortex. Now, that's the part of your brain that handles memory, attention, and decision-making. It's your brain's command center, and we're essentially letting it get weaker. In your day-to-day life, this might show up as having trouble focusing at work, or forgetting parts of conversations, or just finding it hard to plan for the future.
Now let's contrast that with something like reading a book. It couldn't be more different. Reading is like taking your brain to the gym. It's a full brain workout. Your visual centers have to see the symbols on the page. Your language centers decode their meaning. Your memory pulls up context, and your brain builds new connections between ideas. It's an active process that strengthens the brain instead of just pacifying.
So, if the problem is this constant chase for easy stimulation, what's the solution? What's the antidote? Well, it's something our digital world has made incredibly rare: patience. And from a neuroscience perspective, Patience isn't just about waiting around. It's an active decision your brain makes. It's the cognitive process of choosing a bigger, more valuable reward later over a small, immediate hit of dopamine right now.
And that really puts the decision in stark relief, doesn't it? Every single time we choose to scroll, we are making a trade. We're trading a moment of potential boredom for a quick hit of stimulation. But in the long run, we might be trading away our ability to think deeply, to focus, and to build a more meaningful life.
This is the fundamental question that this whole thing really boils down to. Is our goal just to get through the day, anesthetized by an endless feed? Or is it to actually build a mind and a life that has real meaning and purpose?
Look, the answer here is not to delete all your apps and go live in a cave. The first and honestly the most powerful step is just to consciously choose to slow down. It's about creating intentional friction. So move your most distracting apps off your home screen. Put them in a folder. Set a timer before you even open them. The goal is just to create a little bit of space between the impulse and the action so you can make a real choice. And then choose the long-term reward, even if it's tiny. Put the phone down and read one page of a book. Listen to one full song without doing anything else. That is where the resistance begins.